Family and friends, we have gathered here to praise God and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of Robert Keith Sanders. We come together in grief, acknowledging our human loss. May God grant us grace that in pain we may find comfort, in sorrow, hope, and in death, resurrection. John 14, 1-3 says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and also trust in me. There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am." Will you pray with me? God, we come here today to remember Bob, who has passed from our midst, but who also offers us a cause for celebration because of a life well lived. Help us to honor his memory by worshiping you here today. Amen. Part of Bob's faith was certainly worship, singing, and so we will be talking a little bit more about that later, but what more fitting way to honor Bob than by having some worship today? So we will be singing hymn 328 for our opening hymn, "Surely the Presence of the Lord is in this place." So that there are hymnals in the pews, and that will be 328. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I now invite Mason to come forward for our reading.
Far, far away, one mystery greets, another vast and high. The infinite of the waters meets the infinite of sky. Stars are singing hymns of calm above the sea's unrest. Can ever that majestic psalm dwell 'neath the ocean's breast? What far horizon, dim and low, the sweet solution finds, where earth's tumultuous yearnings know the peace of heavenly minds. And still the sky's imperial grace, the tossing ocean Mars. We cannot see the meeting place, but we can see the stars.
Bob joined the Centenary Choir in 1971, and that was one of his favorite songs, How Great Thou Art, and one he was often asked to sing at weddings and funerals. And so thank you for that beautiful rendition of that. We'll continue now in remembrance of Bob as I invite Cheryl now to come forward and present our eulogy for today.
Well, here I am again, just shy of 3 years since my mom passed away. My dad never thought he would outlive her. She planned to make it to 100, and he planned to be here as long as his lungs held out. He never expected to make it to 87, but he was relatively healthy. He was fiercely independent, and he was stubborn, which I believe is what got him to 87. And now my quick PSA from him, don't smoke. My earliest memory of my dad was when we were on a family vacation in Florida. I believe we may have been at Jungle Gardens. I was likely not much more than a toddler walking down a path when a white peacock started chasing me. I remember my dad scooping me up and putting me on his shoulders, just in the nick of time. I feel like he was always there for us. He was there trying to stop my bloody nose when Joey Spoyer hit me in the face with a baseball bat. It was my first and last time playing catcher, and I was just too close. My dad was there when we crashed our bikes going down the big hill on the golf course. He would pick the rocks out of our knees and elbows and hold the dreaded red bottle of methylate, count to 3 and tell us to blow so it didn't hurt as much. He took Scott and I mushroom and squirrel hunting and taught all the grandchildren how to fish. Everyone can bait their own hook whether they want to or not. He was incredibly handy and had tools for every application. I'm pretty sure he learned most of his skills from his dad, and I'm glad he passed them on to us. He showed me how to refinish furniture for 4-H projects, and he showed Scott how to build a race car for the Pinewood Derby when he was in Cub Scouts. In a true example of if you build it, they will come, he poured a concrete extension to our driveway so we could have a basketball goal. Magically, Rick Mount appeared and played many games of horse with all the neighborhood kids. Father's Day was a big deal for us. The family would gather at Memorial Park here in Lebanon for our annual picnic. Later in the afternoon, everyone would come back to our house. My dad would set out outdoor games, since my mom really didn't want everyone in the house. Badminton, tetherball, and of course, his favorite, jarts. No injuries that I can recall. Later, everyone did come into the house to watch home movies. My dad set up the screen and projector, got out the reels of film. He had one of those Super 8 cameras with the amazingly bright light. We all love seeing our squinting faces smiling at the camera. My dad traveled for his work as an electrical engineer and would often go to Arizona. He designed the controls for these huge trucks that had tires that were about 7 feet in diameter. He would pick up giant jawbreakers and Pop Rocks candy for us. He would also bring home a stash of illegal fireworks in his suitcase. It was the 70s, you know. Our neighborhood had a backyard pitch-in every year after the 4th of July parade. As it started to get dark, everyone would gather at the end of our driveway, and out came my dad with loads of fireworks and his blowtorch. Sometimes we had a drive-by or two from the police, but again, no injuries that I recall, and so much fun. I could go on forever about childhood, but we grew up, and our dad was just as involved. 3 pieces of his advice I will pass along are: take the hardest classes you can in high school. It will make college much easier. He learned that when he went to Purdue. Save for retirement, and nothing good happens after midnight. Well, except I think that one was from my mom. Both my parents really enjoyed their retirement, being snowbirds. He loved playing golf in Florida and volunteering with Meals on Wheels here in Indiana. The love of travel and the ocean he first found when in the Navy continued in retirement. There was a memorable trip to Israel and Egypt where my dad learned that it is free to get up on a camel, but $20 to get down. He loved being a grandfather and traveling with all of the kids. They celebrated their 50th, 55th, and 60th wedding anniversaries with cruises and a trip to Disney. Being together was so much fun, and witnessing the example my parents set in their marriage was a gift. As I mentioned before, it was very hard on my dad after my mom died. However, he kept up his activities and participated again in the 2021 Boone County Senior Olympics, where he had a personal best finish with 6 gold medals. What most people don't know is that less than 30 days before competing, he had his heart shocked back into rhythm from AFib, and he had cataracts fixed in both eyes. Pretty amazing. Later that fall, we went on our first cruise without my mom. I'd be lying if I didn't say he spent a wee bit more time in the casino without my mom there. Toward the end of the cruise, he said, "Let's go again next year. I'm going to get the insurance just in case, but let's go again." So we scheduled for Thanksgiving of 2022 and had a great time. And again, I'd be lying if I didn't say he spent a lot more time in the casino. He even entered a slot machine contest. He won his heat and came in second overall out of about 60 people. The octogenarian in the electric wheelchair was clearly a crowd favorite. This past year was much tougher, as his lungs didn't operate as well, but he still participated in all the activities at the condo clubhouse with his friends in Florida. And while in Indiana, over the summer, he played daily, very competitive games of Skippo with his brother David. It's my understanding that he won the final game. Scott and I visited often, and we went on drives to Kroger for lottery tickets and out to the country to check the crops, and through Sheridan to visit my mom in the cemetery and grab an ice cream cone at the Twin Kiss. Growing up, our family was loving, but not really huggy or expressive. My oldest daughter, Mason, always ends a conversation with, "Love you." Sometime after my mom died, I was walking out the door from visiting my dad, and I heard, "Love you." He had taken it up. We never ended a phone conversation or visit without "love you" again. So, love you.
Bob and Donna were married on December 20th, 1959 at the Sheridan United Methodist Church, and during their wedding they kneeled and Bob sang the Lord's Prayer, which we'll be hearing now. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Matthew 5:4. Robert Keith Sanders, 88, of Lebanon, passed away on December 22nd, 2023. Bob was preceded in death by his wife of 61 years, Donna Richardson Sanders. He's survived by Cheryl and Dr. Scott Sanders and Cheryl Cassis. He will be missed by his grandchildren, Mason, Lucy, Justin, Donovan, Jaden, Julia, Nick, and Joe. Did I give everybody? He is also preceded in death by his brother, Wiley Bud Sanders, and survived by his brother. Bob was born on November 6, 1936. He grew up in Sheridan. His father, Carol or Carp, was a general handyman who could repair anything. He was a volunteer fire chief. His father passed away, though, when Bob was in college, and his mother was also named Alice. Alice was a lot of fun, I'm told. She was strict, but she was also the receptionist at the doctor's office. The grandchildren could remember staying all night at her house, and they'd walk and let the kids go to the five and dime store, and the grandmother would give them money to buy something. They were all strong in faith, and Mama was close to all her boys. They had they remember having large families together. Told there were, and I'm still trying to get this, desserts. They would have pictures with bananas with cream cheese icing, banana cake with Red Hots. Am I getting that right? Sounds like I still want to see this. This sounds very interesting to me. But they always took a picture trying to see, you had to cut the cake basically to get maximum icing. I'm told that's the trick for that. Bob also worked since he was six, delivering milk and papers. He grew up mowing lawns. He had that same tenacity that I think we've all known in later years, even from a young age of 6. Throughout school, the family didn't have a lot of money, but Bob liked sports. He was mechanically inclined. He played football. I'm told, though, he broke his leg during the first practice of senior year, so that unfortunately put him out of the season. But he was also a track star, did shot put in the 100-yard dash. He was athletic in high school, as well as, again, as you've heard, even up through his later years participating in those senior Olympics. And I still love that photo. Isn't that amazing? It's very him. He married his true love, Donna, on December 20th, 1959, at the Sheridan United Methodist Church, and together they had their 2 children. Bob served honorably in the United States Navy from 1954 through 1958, attaining the rank of Radar Man Second Class aboard the USS Cambria. I'm told he actually took quite the interest in ships. He even memorized all the ships and their functions, and he had such a high score that they actually thought he cheated. But he just had a mind for remembering and knowing things. He attended Purdue University on the GI Bill and graduated as a part of a class of 46 with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering in 1963. Donna said he chose it because it's the hardest. Now, I'm told actually it was even more difficult, and there were some allusions to this. His classes in high school, which were good, they weren't up to snuff, though, of participating in Purdue University for engineering, and so he had to work hard to get that degree. He had to do a lot of makeup work just to get up to that same caliber as his classmates. But he was not adverse to hard work, as we've already mentioned. So Bob worked as the manager of electrical development, R&D, for Allison Transmission Division of General Motors for 29 years. He supervised many electrical engineers and technicians and an extensive development laboratory. Bob developed electronic transmission control systems for on and off highway trucks, as we've mentioned before, large capacity buses, military trucks and tanks, as well as oil service rigs, locomotives, and aircraft engines. I'm told in total he holds 9 United States patents. I need to get on it, apparently. Many of these electrical systems are still used throughout the world today. And I was told that Bob, who also liked the vacation, we'll talk a little more there later, but he would actually, as everybody's on vacation, he would actually ask how whether it's a bus or, and I think there was one that was a helicopter. Am I remember right? The helicopter tour? He was on a helicopter tour and talked about that, and since he had some work in designing some component or some part of that. Bob also was somebody who enjoyed the holidays. We've talked about the 4th of July and his smuggling activities for illegal fireworks from Arizona. I think that sounds like a lot of fun with Bob getting his blowtorch and lighting up the sky. But he was a big fan of Christmas. He liked to dress up, and I don't want to ruin any. So Santa would sometimes show up, and I'm told Bob might have had a relationship with Santa during some of these Christmas parties. And a lot of time, it was always fun. Everybody could come sit on Santa's lap, and he would listen and give the ho-ho-hos for everybody. And then every year, for some reason, Bob missed Santa Claus for whatever reason. So I'll let you put 2 and 2 together there. But I love the picture of that. It seems like that Bob, this electrical engineer, was also a man who had a great joy and appreciation for spreading holiday cheer. He had a large workshop with many tools. Many of these tools were passed down from his dad. And he was always available, as mentioned before, to help with those 4-H projects or whatever was needed. He was somebody who used his handiness to help others, to connect with family, to connect with friends, which is a great example, I think, for all of us to use what you can. Use what God has given you to give to others. Bob was a wonderful father to Cheryl and Scott. He was very involved in their activities, as we've mentioned. He was president of the Boone County Youth Football League, coached football, baseball, and basketball. In 1992, Bob retired, and almost 30 winters were spent in Bradenton, Florida, where he and Donna were active in Pine Brook Ironwoods golf community. He spent multiple years as the president of the Woods Board of Directors and served as the president of their association. What I loved about that time is that he put, again, his electrical engineering to use, and he would make these elaborate six-story Christmas displays out of lights. Growing up, he always loved putting up Christmas lights, so I guess he took to decorating a building. What I also love, too, is that he liked to connect in with family, and that even his brother David bought the condo, I believe, right below him, if I'm getting that right. And so having family, all 3 brothers lived near each other, and I'm told had a blast. He enjoyed going deep-sea fishing. He enjoyed traveling. Bob and Donna would go to Israel and Egypt. They'd have a Florida church group they'd travel with. Being in the Navy had stoked his love for ships, and so he enjoyed the open seas. They also went on trips to Europe and Paris and London and Greece, many, many cruises, as we've mentioned before. And what I love is that they loved taking the grandkids. It's inviting and bringing people on board. After retiring, Bob was a man of faith. I think that's important to highlight. Church was important to him. He very early on, when he was here at Centenary United Methodist Church, started singing in the choir and enjoyed many years of that, and would enjoy sitting next to other fellow choir members and having fun. Even Mr. Weary, the florist, they would stand next to each other and just try to make each other laugh. Singing was a joyful thing for Bob. He continued singing with the Faith United Methodist Choir in Florida and capped his choir career by performing at Carnegie Hall in New York City in 2017. He was a person who prayed a lot, and he did the right thing. And even when hard things came up, Donna had toxic shock when she was 51 and almost died. Faith was something that carried Bob through. He's a person of faith. And in 2007, when he had a bad cold and went to the ER on Super Bowl Sunday, he was misdiagnosed and had all sorts of fluid, all sorts of issues. And through it all, he was a person of faith who fought the hard fight and persevered. And faith was an important component of that. It was something that kept him to have that tenacity that we all know and love. And in his final years, as we've already mentioned a couple times, Bob kept active. He participated in those senior Olympics, even having, I believe he said, double cataract surgery and some other heart surgery, and apparently he just did them on the way to the Olympics. What an example. Keep going, keep persevering, keep running that race. During those last few months, Bob was ready to go. You know, he was ready to be with Donna. Never thought he'd outlive her. And he was willing to go back and wanted to be with her. He missed her. Bob gave us a great example of living a life full of love and courage. Romans 12:6-8 says, "We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us. Prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the exhorter in exhortation, the giver in generosity, the leader in diligence, and the compassionate in cheerfulness." 2 Timothy 4:7-8 says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Now, those verses were actually taken partly from Donna's service, who I did those a number of years ago, to remember her as that teacher, as some of you may remember. I love reading this verse again, though, for thinking about the different gifts we all have to offer, Bob included. Bob's differed from Donna's, but we're still full of heart, still full of faith. His giving us an example of what it means to live that life as a practical person full of faith and full of love. Bob knew what it meant to live a life of love, that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Nothing in life, and even in death, Bob has not been separated from God. Faith enabled him to practically care for his people. So today, I hope you hear that lesson, one of practical love. And I hope today that you can hear that voice of Bob passing on, saying his love to you in these final days. As we celebrate Bob's life, I now want to transition over to another part of our service. All sing Hail to Purdue chorus. Now, this is one I am not as familiar with. I will need a little help with. I think it's actually kind of funny. I'm not a big sports person usually, but was watching a Purdue game, and Purdue apparently beat Illinois. Any Purdue fans out there? This is like my first sports shout out, so I'm very excited to join with you at celebrating that. It was a good game. So what way to better remember Bob than to join in singing this All Sing Hail to Purdue. And please help me in leading this as we sing All Hail Purdue. Well done. Today's a time for grief, but also a time for celebration. We've lost a dear friend, but we also have a living example of how to live. So will you pray with me? God, we thank you for a life well lived. We thank you for Bob, for his joy and his love of life. And we thank you for the message of his life, to live, to be those practical people of love. And Jesus, today we trust in you, that in you we can find peace and a hope eternal. Now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. This does conclude our service. We will be having a graveside at the cemetery in Sheridan following the service.